Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're giving you our overvalued fantasy football wide receivers. We'll show you how to win your league by winning your draft. Let's start this fantasy football podcast right meow.
Hey everyone, I am Justin, that is Kyle, and this is the Fantasy Football Upside. Thanks for dropping by our Fantasy Football podcast and YouTube channel. Thank you very much, recent subscribers. Thank you for getting us over that 200 number we were shooting for last week. Well, this is a new week. We got a new goal. Yeah. Let's get it going, people. Let's go.
Hit the subscribe.
Hit the subscribe button. But yeah, we have another content-filled week for you all this week. We're looking at our players that are currently overvalued. And because of that, we are most likely going to avoid those players if possible.
And make a lot of people mad.
Yesterday, we may have rustled some feathers with one of Kyle's overvalued running backs. Definitely check that out below and where Kyle points. Boop. Boop. But today, we're going to hit you with our overvalued wide receivers.
Oh, yeah.
This is also very important. These are the guys you might want to avoid currently at their ADP. Kyle, what you got before we get in?
Hey, you've got a shirt on. Check that thing out. Ooh. We haven't seen this one, actually. This is a new shirt. This is the Upside Legion shirt, guys. It's pretty cool.
Join the Legion.
Join the Legion, yeah. And actually, if you do want to join the Legion, you can head over to ffbupside.com and you can click on some of the links over there, or you can head to the, It's patreon.com/the fantasy football upside. And you can sign up over there. And one of the access things that you're going to get by signing up to join the Legion, beyond like a lot of cool merch and other things like that, is you're going to get the draft kit at a certain level. You're also on any level going to have access to us for our Sunday pregame shows that we are going to do every Sunday. That's right. And we are going to talk about the weather. Actually, we're going to talk about the weather, how it's going to affect.
That will actually come up, yes.
Yeah, that will come up, actually. But
there's going to be other things besides the weather.
We'll talk about people who are hurt. And we'll also talk about start-sit questions and everything like that. So if you're a member of the Legion through Patreon, you are guaranteed to get your question answered, actually, because we're going to have Patreon-only access at a certain point during each live stream so that you are guaranteed to get your question answered. So head on over, check it out, subscribe, and you can check out the draft kit as well. That is actually, if you want it, you can scan this QR code right here, the little dinosaur. It's like, boop. You can scan that thing. It's going to take you right to the Victory Draft Kit page, and you'll be able to get the draft kit. All right. I think that's enough time there. Let's start talking about some wide receivers. Dive in headfirst into the shallow end, Justin. Give me your first wide receiver to avoid.
Well, this might start pissing people off already. It's Mike Evans. He's going first pick in the 4th round, 11th wide receiver off the board. And why not? His targets, catches per game, yards have all been in decline the last 3 years.
You're wrong, bro. You're wrong.
No, bro. Dude, bro, look at the numbers. Hey, that's what I'm doing. There are a lot of weapons on this offense. And Tom Brady has always been one to share the ball, minus those Randy Moss years. But that's totally different now because there's Randy Moss and nobody else. There are weapons on this team at wide receiver. Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller, the other guy we don't talk about. You have tight ends. You got Gronk. You got Cameron Brate, OJ Howard. You got a ton of players, not even mention the running backs there. I mean, this guy, when it comes to Mike Evans, he still finished as the 8th best wide receiver last year. Yeah, look at the numbers. He finished 8th last year. Well, that's because of a ridiculously unsustainable touchdown percentage of 19.4%. So that means almost 20% of his catches went for touchdowns, everybody. And Kyle, you had a great nickname for him. He was Old Deuces.
Yep, Old
Kyle,
Deuces.
Please explain.
Deuces. He is the guy who had in a game, and it was actually pretty close to 2 games, back to back, that he had 2 touchdowns on 2 targets for 2 receptions for 2 total yards and had 2 touchdowns. And so, that sort of stuff. Points. That's not a variance play at all. Not at all. That's completely sustainable. You can anticipate that happening every season, that he will have the Old Deuces game. Yeah. Let me get you back over.
You're good. One more year older for Mike Evans, and I think this is the year he moves from that back end wide receiver 1 to more of a wide receiver 3, probably high-end wide receiver 3. I mean, so based on his current ADP, I believe he is extremely overrated, and his time of being that number 1 wide receiver, I think, are gone. I look at some other wide receivers going off at the same time around the 11th wide receiver. You got a Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson. They're all going in the same area. Those guys are still on the up and up. I just think for all the good that Mike Evans has done, I mean, he's still a very talented wide receiver. I just look at opportunities. I mean, we talk about opportunities all the time with running backs. Well, there's still going to be opportunities for targets for wide receivers. That's the biggest thing. And I just don't see him getting that 100+ targets that you're going to need out of him. And that touchdown percentage is just not sustainable, everybody. I mean, he had 13, 14 touchdowns. It's ridiculous. It's insane off the amount of catches he had.
Yeah.
So that's why I think he's a wide receiver that I've actually always kind of avoided. Just there's always been a lot of variance from game to game with him.
Yeah.
So I mean, you had him last year, and he
I did,
worked
but
out well for you at times.
but that was a reluctant grab in the end. It was like I didn't really want to draft him, but you know he had an unbelievable year in the end. Like I did not think he would do what he did. So yeah. But I agree with you fully. I think that he's overvalued. I think there's too many mouths to feed there. They've got how many, like 50 wide receivers and 120 running backs, I think, right now. So I just can't see
121, actually.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Almost as many tight ends as the Bears. So,
yeah. Nobody will ever do that. Nobody will top that.
What was it, 14? They had like 14 tight ends in camp last year.
And then they finally like, we're going to trade Adam Shaheen that we traded up for in the draft. Draft a guy out of BFE Idaho or something.
Don't even. You know that GM just is phenomenal, and he makes nothing but great grabs. He's had nothing but successful first rounders repeatedly for like 6 years straight, and Justin Fields is the second coming.
He can evaluate quarterbacks as good as John Elway.
Oh yeah, he can. All right, here we go. I'm gonna make some people mad. I think a little bit. That's Julio Jones. I am saying it. He's overvalued. He's going 4th pick, 4th round. He's currently the 14th wide receiver off the board. I think that's what upsets me more than being like the 4th pick of the 4th round. I'm not sure why he's being drafted as a high-end wide receiver 2 this season. I think that's very problematic. I think you're overspending there if you're doing that. There's too many factors going against him. And Justin, we kind of talked about this a little bit in last episode, the wall for each position, 28 for running back, 30 for wide receiver, 32 for QB. Guess who's 32 years old and not a QB, but he's a wide receiver? That's Julio.
Borrowed time.
Yes, he's on borrowed time. So look, he's going to be 32 all year, a whole season long. He's banged up the last few years. He's always played hurt most seasons. We know that, right? He's always played on bulky ankles. But over the last 32 games, he's missed 8. He's missed 8 of those games. And in that, in last season, he actually missed 7 games.
7 miles an hour.
Yeah. So look, he's moving to a new offense, and this is where it starts to get problematic even more so for me. It's one thing to talk about the age of a guy. I have no room to talk, especially when I'm talking about a 32-year-old, right, Justin?
You're so young, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm still young. Neither do you, though. But look, this new offense, this is not going to be an easy change like it isn't for most wide receivers to move from one offense to another, especially when they were an elite guy. He's going from an offense, though, that threw the ball a ton. So we're going to hit you with a bunch of statistics here. So try to keep your eyes open, okay?
Statistics.
All right. So he was in an offense, the Atlanta Falcons, who in 2018 were 5th in passing with 617 attempts. In 2019, they were 1st in attempts at 684, and in 2020. Which he missed half the season. They had 628 attempts, good for 4th in the NFL. He's moving to an offense that during the same time frame in 2018, Tennessee Titans were 31st in pass attempts at 437. In 2019, they were 31st again at 448 attempts. And then last year, they had a whopping 485 attempts, good for 30th in the NFL. So he's moving to an offense that is literally averaging 187 attempts fewer than the one he's coming from over the last 3 seasons. That's not total fewer over the last 3 years. That's average fewer each year. So Nothing's saying that Tennessee's going to change this. There's nothing about this that is likely to change. It's simply an extrapolation that makes obvious that even if he were to finish as the wide receiver 1 on the Tennessee Titans, his numbers relative to his entire career are likely to be lower. A.J. Brown had a phenomenal year last year. He was the wide receiver 1 in this offense, and he had a great year. That was probably a high point for this team. Honestly, the way that offense runs, Tennessee's offense is run first, and run last. He's not likely to be the top wide receiver on the team. We have to acknowledge that. Plenty of people are saying that Julio isn't exactly spent yet, but then they ignore the fact that A.J. Brown is still the wide receiver 1 on this team. He's already established himself as that, and he's already been able to prove that he can carry that kind of load. So I don't see why anyone is taking Julio in the 4th round as the 14th wide receiver off the board. You're going to have an A.J. Green season. And
that's insane, man.
Yeah, AJ Green bombed last year, man.
Those 187 fewer attempts each season on average. That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about a top 5 offense 3 years in a row in attempts versus a bottom 3 offense in attempts each of those same 3 seasons. And people are like, oh yeah. They can sustain 2 wide receiver 1s. Because that's what they're doing. They're drafting these guys with the bet that Julio is going to be high-end wide receiver 2, back-end wide receiver 1, and that A.J. Brown is going to be wide receiver 7, 8. It's like, why? Why do you think that's the case? Because they did it in Seattle with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett? Well, Lockett's full of touchdown variants, and DK is an elite talent, and they've thrown the ball a ton when they have to. Yeah. And they've got an elite quarterback who can put the ball on a dime. You know, I don't see Tennessee doing the same thing. Tannehill is a great game manager, but he needs the run game to be successful.
Absolutely, man. No, it's pretty crazy. Like, Julio Jones is a fantastic player. He has been his whole career.
I'm not knocking him. I'm saying it's the situation. It is a bad situation.
We're looking at targets, everybody. Yeah. We're looking at targets. We're looking at opportunities, and to keep him on the field as well. Like you said, it is A.J. Brown's team when it comes to the wide receivers. He's still the dog, but A.J. Brown has talked about, he was recruiting Julio Jones over, but we've talked about it in the past. When you have an elite wide receiver coming over to a new team, they almost always struggle. DeAndre Hopkins was almost the anomaly last year, and he still finished as like the 8th best wide receiver. Mm-hmm. He was being drafted as top 5. So, but you have the OBJs of the world that came over, and he struggled mightily when it comes to an elite wide receiver coming over to a brand new offense that first year. Yeah. And I don't see this being a second year or third year for Julio.
I think that
we could see a Calvin Johnson situation.
Yeah. I think that I was thinking about it, and I think that they really looked at that playoff loss and thought to themselves, we were 1 wide receiver away. Yeah. That they were 1 wide receiver away from heading to the Super Bowl and being.
I know Corey Davis was on the up and up compared to Julio Jones going down. I mean, Corey Davis is 26.
And you look at Corey Davis's numbers, like they really shouldn't have let him walk for what they've paid to get Julio on their team.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Wow, that's going to be controversial out there, everybody.
Hey, they paid a lot to get him on their team, and they restructured. Whose deal did they restructure?
Tannehill's.
It was Tannehill's to get him.
The one they just signed.
Yeah.
So everything's going to be backloaded, everybody. They're going to be in cap hell soon.
Yeah, I think they really should have kept Corey Davis over him or gone a different route and drafted somebody in the draft. They might have been better off trading up and trying to get somebody like JaMarr Chase. So, yeah. All right, here you go.
All right, my next one. Kyle saw this and said, "Oh, this is going to sting a little bit for you." It's Juju SmithSchuster. He's going 3rd pick in the 7th round, 30th wide receiver off the board. It's going to be a tough one for me because I was pounding that drum for Juju SmithSchuster. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. He was in 2018. He was a top 10 wide receiver. I was able in our keeper league to pick him up off the waiver wire after like week 1 or week 2 his rookie year. I thought I looked amazing at fantasy football after doing that. But he turned around and had an injury-riddled 2019. He did have a much better 2020 by the end of the year. He was better in 2020. Thank you. I appreciate that. But his efficiency, it was just god-awful. And his TDs last year are what really kept him relevant. He finished as a number 22 wide receiver last year. But as a reference, this is a number I saw that just blew my mind. Justin Jefferson had 3 fewer targets and finished as the 6th best wide receiver. Juju Smith-Schuster finished as the 22nd best wide receiver. And guess what? There's going to be even more competition for targets this year. The Steelers drafted dual threat running back Najee Harris, who's going to catch the ball out of the backfield. They're going to run plays for that to happen. They also drafted tight end Pat Freiermuth from Penn State in the 2nd round. If I said that wrong, give me a hard time in the comments. That's fine. I'm cool. I won't cry that much. Let's not forget about Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and also let's not forget about James Washington, who there was some rumors out there saying that he was requesting a trade. If they're going to trade anybody, in my opinion, it would be Juju Smith-Schuster for some of the things that he's done in the past to take the attention away from the team and put it on him. So it's one of those things where most of Juju's catches are around the line of scrimmage. So he does have a decent PPR value, but in standard leads, he's got a very low ceiling, everybody. He averaged, I think it was like 8.9 yards per catch last year. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw a wide receiver not go for double digits per catch. And he was in the 8s. I know that. Some other players going around the same in the 30th area. You have his counterpart, Chase Claypool. You have Robbie Anderson. You have Jerry Jeudy. I think all 3 of those players have a much higher upside than Juju does this year.
Yeah. I would agree with
that. He's still young as can be. Mm-hmm. He's still only like 24, 25, but I just don't see where he's going to be a guy that is going to give you week in and week out top 36 finishes, especially when you have Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool.
And I think part of it is that Roethlisberger can't make it a whole season, looking like a spring chicken anymore. So
right.
There's only so far he can throw the ball. Average depth of target is an important statistic. So yeah. I think you're right. It is painful, I'm sure, for you because you absolutely have always been a Juju fan. So yeah,
I looked brilliant when I picked him up off the waiver wire, and he did well for me, and I kept him the following year. And oh boy,
yeah. I did the same thing with Tyreek Hill. I got lucky with that though. Other than the broken clavicle, right? That was pretty bad. He almost died. Not good. All right, let's talk about last wide receiver we've got here. JaMarr Chase, ADP. He's going 11th pick of the 6th round, 22nd wide receiver off the board. So back end wide receiver 2. News out of camp so far is not exactly what you would hope to hear if you are a Bengals fan or if you drafted him in Dynasty, right? Especially considering that they passed on Penei Sewell and had a clear need along the offensive line, as I think everyone is well aware, considering both Mixon and Burrow were injured last year, lower leg injuries on both of them because of a lack of blocking. Then they already spent last year in the draft a really high pick to get T. Higgins. So they wouldn't get JaMarr Chase instead of the offensive lineman. That's something completely different though, right? We don't have to talk about that exactly just to know that we know that the Bengals are a malfunctioning organization. But beyond that,
Bengals are going to bingle.
Yeah, the Bengals are going to bangle. JaMarr Chase, the news is he's not getting separation like he did in college. Surprise, surprise, right? We didn't expect that to be the case, but the word is that he's not getting separation at all. That's if they're going to get the ball in this guy's hands, it's going to be passes behind the line of scrimmage. And in the preseason game, that's what I saw. People were like, oh, look how great he is. And I'm like, he got 5 yards. He got 5 yards on a wide receiver screen. And that was the only way they could get the ball to him because he needed a blocker to make sure that he was open. That's problematic. I'm concerned here with this. And I would love to be able to go and grab somebody like JaMarr Chase in the 6th round, back into the 6th round, and then have him blow up. But I don't think that this is it. This ain't it. So given this information, I think that we need to treat him more like we would traditionally treat a rookie wide receiver. We need to recognize that Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb are not normal. These kinds of things do not come along very often. There was no noise about them like we're seeing with JaMarr Chase, though, and not on this level that we're seeing, I think.
Kyle, let's not forget something real quick. he missed the entire 2020 season. He
Yes, he
opted
did.
out in
He
college.
opted out. Now there was some family things that were going on.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't fault him for opting out, but we have to take that into consideration. He hasn't played football in a long time.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while to get going, and this offense is not one that it can wait.
Yeah.
When it comes to get going, I mean, they're going to have to win early and often just to keep Joe Burrow upright.
And this is the problem. The offensive line isn't better than last year in a way that they need for it to be, so that guys like JaMarr Chase can even have a chance to be considered a solid wide receiver too. I think that what you're going to do is you're going to spend, if you're going to go and draft this guy, you're spending wide receiver 2 capital, draft capital, and you're getting a guy who might be, if you are lucky, a back end wide receiver 3. I think that they saw what T. Higgins did last year and how he was successful, but his skill set was quite different. He's a much bigger guy. He plays really well, crossing the middle of the field, and he fights really well for contested catches.
Yep.
Joe Burrow throws guys open. He throws passes before guys, turn to come out of their route, that sort of stuff, right? But those wide receivers and tight ends are getting separation when they're supposed to, right at the point of the catch, right? The word is that JaMarr Chase isn't doing that. So for me, guys who are getting drafted after him, who I would take, there's a lot of them. There's Tyler Lockett, Deontay Johnson, Kenny Galladay, banged up. So keep your ears on the ground. He's always banged up, right? I mean, yet people think
Devontae my wide
Devontae
receiver to avoid.
Yeah, well, except that people also think that Devontae Smith's going to be fine, right? Built the same basically, but he's going to be fine. Brandon Ayuk, I'd take him. T. Higgins, I'd take him. Chase Claypool. All these guys are drafted after him. Look at what you're passing when you are taking an unknown quantity in an offense that's not going to be able to most likely keep the QB upright long enough to really have this guy be effective, especially if he's not getting separation. He did a great job in college, but that's because that offense is geared toward exactly what he did, and they play. This is why I don't watch a lot of college football. I can't stand to watch the disparity in skill level. And it's too often that you see that a team comes in with one defensive back who is halfway decent, and they're playing against Alabama, who's got like 2 or 3 wide receivers who are literally first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an NFL player playing against a guy who's barely high school quality, right? Like, I mean, that's what that boils down to. It's not great. That's not great. And so you get guys they're looking a little bit better than maybe they actually are. And I think that this is maybe that case. Now, I think that this offensive line, if it gets better, he could do a little bit better. He could do a little bit better. But I don't see him being a wide receiver 2 this year. I just don't see him. So
not this year.
Nope. All right, guys, that's going to do it, I think, right? Is that it? Yeah, that's it for this episode. Next episode, we're going to talk about QBs and tight ends. We're going to give one of each, right?
Yes, sir.
So make sure you head over to the website, check out the premium resources, which is something else you get access to if you join the Legion. The Legion, you can get this shirt, actually, too. You can get that whether or not you're in the Legion. If you just think it's a cool shirt, feel free. But head on over to the website. It's ffbupside.com. Hope to talk to you guys on Sundays this season, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take it easy. Bye.
See you.